My name is James Shepard. I'd like to thank you for taking time to join me for this special Interchange Workshop today. I'm very excited to talk to you about this topic. One of the main reasons that we developed the Instant Quote tool was that I wanted to simplify a subject that is very misunderstood in our industry, to say the least. And also, it's something that I believe is crucial that you need to understand. I get salespeople all the time. Obviously, I have a lot of phone calls with salespeople in our industry. And, they always ask me, James, how do you get, so many sales? How are you able to sell so many people? And, it's funny because over the years, one of the things I've really shied away from is saying things like, well, for one thing, I talk about interchange and I understand it, But the truth is that that is a pivotal part of my, it's crucial to my pitch. I talk about interchange, and it really sets me apart because, just like when you go to the doctor and the doctor diagnoses you and they tell you all this complicated stuff about the test that they ran, you do not always understand everything that they say. Many times they're talking about something and you think, I have no idea what they're talking about. And that's how a lot of merchants feel about interchange. But we all have that gut feeling when we're with a doctor who's a professional and who really knows what he or she is talking about. And it's the same in credit card processing. When you're out in the field speaking with a merchant, they're not really going to understand everything you say about interchange. If you go through this training and watch the video a few times and really get a grasp of it, they're not going to understand all of it. But they can tell whether or not you know what you're talking about. And my goal with this training today, this workshop, which we're going to go for maybe about probably about 30 to 45 minutes, and then I'll just take a bunch of questions. It's kind of my goal today. I really want to get a lot of questions answered about interchange. But even if you get all this stuff, the merchant, again, they're not going to understand it all, but they're going to be able to tell that you know what you're talking about, and that's what I want to accomplish today. So what are we talking about today? When I say interchange, let's start from the very, very, very beginning and say, what in the world is interchange in the first place? Okay, so this is an interchange table. Now I know right away probably half of you fell asleep when I went to the when I went to the screen, right? I mean, this is the most boring thing that you could look at. It's like reading an encyclopedia or something. But it's actually a couple things I really want to point out about this, and then we're going to go to the Instant Quote tool, and I'm going to show you kind of the simplified version of this so that you can understand it a little bit better. But I think it's important that we start here and talk about what these things are. So this is from Visa. So understand that there are two entities involved here. Number one, we have the issuing bank. And so the bank, when I say the issuing bank, don't get confused by that. It just means the bank that issued the card, okay? Many of you on here, probably all of you on here, have a bank account, okay? And your bank most likely has given you a check card that you can use to spend the money in your bank account. That makes your bank the issuing bank for that card. It's that simple, okay? And your bank charges a fee, an interchange fee, to what's called the acquiring bank. And so the acquiring bank is the bank that is accepting the money, okay? In this case, usually the acquiring bank is going to be the credit card processor that's accepting money on behalf of the merchant, okay? But you have the bank who's issuing the card, and they're the ones that have the money, and they're paying the money to the acquiring bank. All right. Again, in this case, that would normally be the processor, or if the processor has a sponsor bank or something like that. Again, that side of it's a little complicated, but the money is exchanging hands. The bank that is paying out the money, they're not going to pay the full amount of the money. So let's look up here, and I'm going to highlight a little section. In fact, I'm going to zoom in a little bit because I know sometimes some of you are on your iPad or whatever, and it might be a little difficult to see. Let's look at this very, very top row up here. You can see it says CPS Retail. CPS Retail. And if you look at Classic, this is a classic retail transaction. That means it's a regular credit card that someone is swiping, card present, at a retail location. You don't need to know all of that. I'm going to talk about what you need to know in a minute. You don't need to know that. But I just want to show you, to give you the example to make sure you understand what interchange actually is, okay? If you look at that and it says it's 1.51% and 10 cents. So 1.51% plus 10 cents. What does that mean? let's say that you took your standard credit card. Okay, it's not a rewards card, it's not some special card or anything like that. It's not a corporate card. And you took that card to a local retail clothing store in your area, and you swiped that card to spend $100. Now, there is a bank that is always the issuing bank. In other words, even though you have a credit card and you say, well, my credit card's not tied to a bank account, it really sort of is tied to a bank account. You just don't know it, okay? There's a different kind of bank account that the bank sets up for you, and they put a certain balance on there. In this case, it would be a debt balance, and they say, you know, you have a credit limit of, you know, $10,000. So it's kind of like you have a bank account at the bank of $10,000 that you can spend from. And so the bank has that money. The issuing bank has the money. You spend $100 at that merchant location. So now the bank, your bank, is going to pay that merchant through several channels, but they're going to pay that merchant $100. Now here's the trick though. They're not actually going to pay out $100. What they're going to do is they're going to take that $100 and say, okay, let's take out 1.51%, so that's $1.51, right? Plus 10 cents for that transaction. So that's $1.61 on a $100 transaction. Is everybody still with me? Okay, so $1.61. So that means the issuing bank is actually going to pay the merchant out $98.39. $98.39. Okay, now by a raise of hands over to the right, because there's quite a few of you on here today, by a raise of hands over to the right and click the little hand button, how many of you understand what I'm talking about so far? How many of you are still with me at this point? Raise your hand over to the right. I'm going to keep asking throughout. This is kind of an intense training today, so, you know, I just want to make sure. Oh, I'm sorry. I put them all down again. Okay. Good, 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 good. Okay. Now let me ask the reverse question. I'm putting all the hands down. Raise your hand if you're like, James, I have no idea what on earth you're talking about. Raise your hand over to the right if you don't get it yet. Or even ask a question in the question box up there. Okay, good. All right, so very few. Most of you are getting it so far. A few of you? Okay, good. If you have a specific question, type it in the question box and let me go ahead and answer it, okay? I would be glad to answer any question you have. I'm going to answer questions throughout because I want to keep everybody with me. All right, so we're all together pretty much. A few of you have some questions, so we'll try to answer those as we go along, okay? So you went and spent $100 at a retail store using a standard credit card, and so that fell under the classic CPS retail for your Visa credit card. And so the issuing bank, instead of paying the merchant $100, they paid out actually $98.39 because they took out 1.51% and 10 cents, okay? Pretty obvious here, simple. Go over to the right under rewards and you will see there 1.65% and 10 cents. What does that mean? That means, well, you go to that same store, you spend the same $100, but you're using a standard Visa rewards card, still swiping it at a retail merchant location. Well, now the issuing bank is going to keep $1.75. You see that? 1.65% of $100 is $1.65. Plus 10 cents is $1.75. So they're going to keep that money, and they're only going to pay out now, what would that be? $98.25. Okay? So they're going to pay out whatever is left over from this. Now, again, hang on a little bit. I need to build on this a little bit, and then I'm going to show you the instant quote tool and show you how it kind of calculates, and I can show you some really, really cool insights that you can use to make a lot more sales in this business. Okay? So that's what Interchange is. Now, the only other thing I want to talk about is why, like Visa and MasterCard and Discover and all them, like what's their deal? Why are they involved in this at all? I'm talking about the issuing bank and the acquiring bank. What's the deal with Visa? Okay, who are they and what are they all about? Well, what they do is they are the ones, you could think of them almost like they're regulating the industry, but they're not a government agency. But they are the ones that set the interchange prices. Okay? So Visa goes to these big banks or small banks and says, okay, would you like to issue some Visa cards to your patrons, and would you like to make interchange? And they're like, sure. They said, okay, well, we are going to set the interchange and you have to collect what we say you're going to collect. So Visa and MasterCard and Discover, they're the ones that actually kind of regulate or set what those interchange rates are going to be. Okay? Now, as you can see over here to the left and up on the top, you can see what it is that determines what type, how much these fees are going to be, what type of fee you're going to have for the different transaction. Over to the left side, you're going to see some different business types, okay, like retail, restaurant, supermarket, small ticket, retail 2, recurring billing payments, so this would be like a subscription service, retail key entered, card not present, e-commerce basic, e-commerce preferred, utilities, hotel and car rentals, passenger transportation, that's like taxi services, Uber, account funding, charity, EIRF, and standard, which are the 2 downgrades. And I'm going to talk to you much more about that in just a minute. Okay, if we scroll to the other side of the screen, we see business cards, okay? Different business cards, also large purchases, okay? And here's Visa Business Credit. And then here is Visa Business Debit and Prepaid. Now you'll see here the U.S. regulated debit card, 0.05% and 22 cents, okay? So that's a standard check card. It has a very low interchange rate. Now down here on this table, we see what Visa actually collects. So in addition to the interchange fees, which again, to be clear, Visa does not make money from interchange fees. They decide what the interchange fees are going to be, but they don't make any money off of them. They make money from the dues and assessments. And you can see what those are right here. This is the actual dues and assessments right now from Visa and MasterCard. They charge, 0.13% on credit, 0.11% on debit, and then they also have a per item fee of 1.55 cents, 1.95 cents, etc. down the line, a few other things that they collect. And so that's how Visa, MasterCard, I'll just scroll down a little bit here. Here's the MasterCard one. And here's their assessments. Same thing, a little bit different rates, but virtually the same thing. And then we go down here to Discover, and Discover, again, virtually the exact same thing. Okay? So, now that brings us back to the Instant Quote tool and how you can make more sales. Okay? So, let me start by going back here to my kind of home page in the application. By the way, let me just clarify, I'm using this on my local computer host right now, and so it's not going to be as fast as it would be in production, which means on the website, and so it might look a little bit slower to you today, and when you actually use it on Monday, you'll see that it works very quickly. But right now, I'm still doing all the testing and stuff to make sure that all the numbers are coming out exactly right. And so when we click on one of these here, let me see, I think we had one question here. Oh yeah, Nate, are you talking about making this one bigger? Or, yes, Dustin, you're right. Visa makes their, yeah, I will, Nate, I'll zoom in. Correct, Nate. So Visa makes their money off of that smaller fee, the 0.13 basis points plus 1.5 cents, 2 cents. That's how they make all their money. Yes. They do not make money, and the banks make the interchange, correct? Yes. So the interchange is collected by the issuing bank that issues the card. And when you think about it, it does make sense because they're the ones really carrying the risk. They're the ones, Visa's not actually paying any money out. The banks are the ones that are actually paying the money out. And, if there's a chargeback or whatever, that's going to come back on the banks rather than the brand. And so that's how that works. Okay, good. All right, don't see any other questions. Let me zoom in a little bit here for you. I tell you what I'll do. Hold on one second. 1 second here. Let me see if I can zoom in on this one a little bit here. Good, okay. This might look a little weird, actually, once I get going a little further, but we'll see. So here we are, and so we're going to click on this, and this is going to pop up here. And we're going to click on Quote. So let me back up for a second, and let's talk about sales. And let me preface this by saying one other thing. The purpose of this live event today is that I really want to transition from, I've been focused a lot on the functionality of the Instant Quote tool, which is great because it has a lot of functionality, but I really want to start focusing now on how to sell with it, because I know that the reality of this industry is that you're not going to pay for something unless you're generating income from it. And so, that's just a no-brainer. That's common sense. And I need to make sure that you know how to leverage this tool in order to make more sales, okay? So let's assume that you walked into a retail business, all right? walk into a retail business and you say, hey, you walk in, introduce yourself, do your opening spiel, hi, my name is James Shepard. I've got a local credit card processing company and just wanted to stop by and learn a little bit more about your business and find out who you're currently processing credit card payments with. And the person says, well, I'm currently processing with, my local bank and we're really happy with them, but I appreciate you stopping by. Now, at this point, most salespeople really don't know what to do. They'll do usually one of a couple things. Either they're going to very backhandedly and awkwardly back out of the conversation and basically say, oh, well, I'm just glad that I was able to meet you and it sounds like you're really happy, so I hope you have a great day. Well, that didn't make anybody any money and you just wasted your time and the merchant's time. Okay. The other thing that a lot of times the salespeople will do is they'll go for super sales mode and they'll say, well, hey, I know you're with them and you're happy, but look, let me get a statement from you because if I can get a copy of your statement, then I can give you a free proposal and then blah, 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 blah. Well, that doesn't work either, as most of you know if you've ever tried it, because once they're not interested, they're certainly not going to give you a statement. Many times they're not going to give you a statement anyway. And so that doesn't work very well. So the instant quote tool fits in at this moment in the conversation, okay? They say, well, we're using our local bank. Now I could say, well, let me ask you a question. I actually have a technology solution right here on my phone. And what it is it's a big database of existing merchant accounts. And we've loaded all these statements in, all these different merchants in, and I have several different processors in here that I personally represent with my company. And here's the great thing about this tool. I don't need your statement. I don't need the information off your statement. I can give you a quote right here instantly, and that way at least we can keep your current processor honest, and let's make sure that you are getting a good deal. Again, it'll take me 2 minutes. I don't need any of your information from your statement as long as you know a couple things about your volume numbers. I really don't need any of that. Could you give me 2 minutes, and let's go through this on my phone. I'll show you it right now, and let's go through and see if what your company is charging, if they're giving you a good rate. Does that sound fair? Now, you can use that pitch, some variation of it, and again, this is being recorded. It'll be on YouTube, so you can check it out and listen to it again. But some variation of that is going to get a positive response more times than not, okay? So many times the merchant's going to say, oh, well, okay, because the big fear is they don't want to share information with you. They don't want to give you their statement. That's really their concern, okay? Jim asked a question here. He says, if the merchant does not want to give a statement, but he will give you all the ballpark figures on how much he paid in fees and also total volume, if hypothetically that is all the merchant will give you, how accurate is the instant quote tool? I'm about to show you that, Jim. The instant quote tool is 100% accurate. The only variance is going to be the assumptions about interchange, which we're going to go over today, and they'll have to know the answers to a few other questions to make sure that it's dead on, but it's very, very accurate. And this is the interesting thing, Jim. This is funny. I am 100% confident, okay, let me say this. I am 100% confident that the instant quote tool without the statement, okay, is going to be more accurate than the statement analysis department at all of the processors I'm aware of with a statement. Let me say that again. The instant quote tool is going to be more accurate without a statement, as long as the figures are correct, than the average statement analysis from the statement analysis department when they do have a statement. And I'll tell you why. The reason is because of interchange, and that's what we're talking about today. The processing companies do not look at interchange, not at all. They don't even give it a cursory glance. And it is wrong many, many, many more times than it is right. And I'm going to show you that here in just a minute. But let's keep going with our sales pitch. And yes, James, the Instant Quote tool is available for iPhone, iPad, Android. It's not an app in the App Store or the Google Play Store, but it is totally mobile enabled. In fact, I'll show you that real quick here when you take the screen size down. And this is how it would look on your phone. And so you can scroll down through and you click on Quote. It'll go here, you put the information in. To be honest with you, I actually like using it on an iPhone much better than I do on a on the desktop. I actually think it looks much more intuitive and user-friendly on the iPhone because I figured you guys would be using it out in the field with your phones and tablets, etc. We are making a iPhone, iOS and Android app next year, but those are going to be out in 2017, not 2016. So, but in the meantime, like I said, it honestly works great. I use it on my phone all the time. So, all right, so let me dive in here and just show you a couple things. So let's say you're talking to a merchant, and you're talking to them, and you get to this point in the conversation. You say, hey, I tell you what, just take 1 or 2 minutes. I've got this technology on my phone. I really enjoy using it because I don't need your statement. I don't need any of your rates or information like that at all. I just need about 2 minutes of your time, and I can actually give you an instant quote right now. And that way, at least you can keep your current vendor honest. I mean, what do you have to lose for 2 minutes, right? And so some combination of that pitch, they're going to say, okay, that's fine. So then what you do is click on this little blue plus button down here. And by the way, you may look at this and have no table here because you have no prospects yet if you're already logged in. Click on the plus button. All right. This plus button is going to pull up different business types. Now, this has kind of become a little bit less important now as of next week. It's still important that you want to get the closest match that you can, but you can change all of the assumptions after the fact, so it's not quite as important anymore. But let's just say, for sake of argument, that we have a quick service restaurant. So let's say that we're in a pizza shop, for instance, okay? So we choose the quick service restaurant here as our business type. That's the first step. All right, and then we put in the business name, Brenda's Pizza Shop, and her name is Brenda, her phone number, her email address, and again, you don't have to put all of this in. Now the source type, I had a lot of questions about that. I left that one kind of as just a little field in there that you can put whatever you want in. So, a lot of people are putting the source type like, walk-in versus telemarketing versus referral, whatever. And then also you have the prospect, the stage down here. So if you're talking to them, they would be contacted. Okay. The next thing you do is click Save and Quote. Now, if you click Save and Quote, it is going to take you directly to the screen to start the process of doing the quote. And I did that because this is not a statement analysis tool. This is a sales tool. This is something you're supposed to use standing in front of the merchant. So I wanted it to be a nice user flow where it goes right through seamlessly. However, in the background, it did save the Brenda's Pizza Shop. And if you click on your prospects here or click on the IQ icon, and go back, you'll see that Brenda's Pizza Shop with all the information was saved in your list of prospects. You can now click on it and you can add notes. Spoke to Brenda. She is interested. Okay, and so you can certainly do all that. You could also go here and add an action. You can add an action in here and put, come back Thursday. And so we'll put this in for Thursday and add the action. Okay. And now we have an action on here, come back Thursday. And then we can check it as completed once we do it. All that, right? So all the normal stuff you'd expect in a CRM and, spoke with Brenda again, etc. And so that's in there. So all this normal stuff you would expect. And then you can click on quote, and that's going to take you right back to where you were when you were creating the prospect. Okay, so I just want to clarify that it is there. So a lot of times reps get confused because it's like they have a new prospect, but they weren't able to actually have a conversation with them. And so it takes them here and they're like, oh, what do? I don't have the information. Just go back to the prospects or click on the IQ tool. We designed it so that it's a nice, easy user flow when you're standing in front of the merchant. Okay. Where do you get the Instant Quote tool? Wayne, you go to www.instantquotetool.com. You can get a 30-day free trial. Now, when we're on this page here, now we're going to put in some information. Now, the statement month, that's really just the statement name. I use the month, and so that's what I did there, like July 2016. But you could just as easily name it Brenda's first statement or, hot prospect or whatever you wanted to name it. It doesn't really matter. The total volume, it's very important you do not use commas. Okay, commas are not part of actual numbers in a program. We're working on doing some additional formatting stuff later where they'll automatically be added in for you for ease of use, but you just put in the total volume. So let's say that in this case, they do $30,000 in volume. Okay, so Brenda's Pizza Shop does $30,000 in volume. So the way this is working is you're standing in front of them, you got a little bit of information, and you're like, hey, you know what? Let me go ahead and put in some basic information so I can create your proposal at the end of this. What's your name again, and your business name, whatever, right? You put some basic stuff in there. You don't have to put anything if they don't want to give you anything. That's fine. And then you say, now let me ask you just a couple really, really simple questions, and I think you're going to know the answer to all of these. Number one. What is your total credit card processing volume on an average month, like last month? What did you process in total? I mean, everything. American Express, PIN debit, check cards, credit cards, everything. And she says, well, we usually do about $30,000. You say, okay, so $30,000. Next question, do you accept American Express? If they say yes, I'll give you a little number. You might want to write this down. But if they say yes, we take American Express. Then the next question is, do you know how much American Express volume you currently take? And sometimes they know the answer to that. A lot of times they don't know the answer to that. And if they don't know the answer to that, it's usually going to be between 10 to 15%. So in this case, I would put in that they're getting $3,000 in American Express. Very easy to do, but you got to make sure you don't get these numbers wrong. I mean, obviously user error is going to mess it up. You know, you got to make sure you put 30,000, not 300,000 or 3,000 or 300, you know. So 30,000 total volume, 3,000 American Express. Then you ask them the same question about PIN debit. Do you accept PIN debit transactions? If they say yes, usually PIN debit is about 20%. Okay? Again, you can ask them, do you know roughly how much PIN debit volume you do? And this is the funny thing. Many of you try so hard to get the statement and you can never get it. If you would just go through this process with the merchant, literally 75% of the time, they're actually going to pull their statement out while you're doing this. And you're going to say, and just roughly, PIN debit volume, do you know roughly what you do? And they're like, no, hold on 1 second. And they're going to go in the back and get their statement. If you would have asked them for the statement, they would have said no. But because you're going through this process, they want to have the accurate information. And so they're going to get their statement, and then you can go back up and correct a couple things. But we're going to put it in here at 6,000. I'm going to assume they're not giving us the statement. Okay, next is the average ticket size. Very important number here in terms of determining interchange. But here's the interesting thing about it. We already give you that number from our database. And so it's $21.59. Now, what you can do is you can ask them, though, and say, you might say, now, Brenda, in our database, it looks like the average pizza shop, the average amount somebody spends in a pizza shop is about $22, $21.50. Does that sound about right? Now, let's say that Brenda corrects us and says, no, mine's actually $23.50, or maybe you have the statement, you say $23.50. Now, the last question here is optional, and by the way, so is the American Express and PIN debit. All you have to know, if all you know is the total volume, you can do everything I'm about to show you, okay? But in this case, I want to put American Express and PIN debit if they have it and they know what it is. The total current fees. So here I'm going to ask them, what are the total current fees? And I'm going to say in this case that they tell me it's, $980, okay? Now, again, they may not know this, and if they don't, or if they don't want to share that information, that's fine. You can keep going. It just won't show savings when you get into the comparison and the proposal, because obviously we have no idea how much we're going to save them because we don't know how much they're currently paying. But you can put the total fees in there. Okay? Now, before I hit create, let me answer a couple questions here, and then we'll keep moving forward here. Let's see. If you only have one processor you are working with, will others show up as the programs they have? Steve, I have some programs that are preloaded in there, but when you get to that step, that's not a step where you're going to share that with the merchant. You're going to pick the best one and present it to them, and when you click present, you're only going to see the one that you chose. Also, if you contact our support department and say, hey, I have a couple programs in here I want to get these out of here, and it's like a public program that everybody has, it'll take us about 30 seconds to get rid of those programs for you, okay? So we can remove programs from your profile, we can help you add programs, and I'm going to show you that actually here in just a little bit. But to answer your question, yes, it'll be there. Some of the other processors will be there, but you can just eliminate that. It's no problem, and again, the merchant's not going to see that anyway. Will this work on Android? Yes. So to answer everybody's question, this will work on any device. Okay, we have basically, and not to get into all the technical details, but we created this so that it will work on, Google Chrome on your Android device. But again, it's a browser application. This is not something that's in the Google Play Store. It's not in the iOS app market or app store. This is just, you go to instantquotetool.com on your phone. But I'm telling you, it works incredibly well. The flow is just the same as it would be with an app. The development's really come a long way with mobile browsers. We are going to roll out native apps next year, but as of right now, this is the way that it works. But yes, it'll work on Android, iPhone, any tablet, any computer, any device. This is going to work very, very well for you. No problem. And once you log in at the beginning of the day, you never have to log in again the rest of the day. So it does remember you and all that good stuff, okay? Now, when we click create, again, keep in mind we're on my local host, so this is probably going to take a good 10 to 15 seconds, whereas the server that we have in the cloud is faster. Well, that actually wasn't too bad. So here's what happened with this, okay? Now, they already told you they're paying $985, okay? And so when this pops up here, we can see that what it did is it took, remember we put in $30,000 in total volume, but we said that $3,000 was American Express, $6,000 was PIN debit. Okay. Now, to be honest with you, with American Express and PIN debit, there's really not a lot of variation, so I'm not worried about my numbers being off at all. So I just don't even really mess with that. That's just, you know, you'll see that later in the presentation. What we're looking at here is Visa, MasterCard, and Discover interchange. Now, what our algorithm did is it actually went through an algorithm that runs through, where did it go? There it is. That runs through this interchange table right here. So all the Visa transactions, it runs through here to see which one it would qualify for based on the business type and the average ticket size. Then it goes through all the MasterCard ones and runs through that. Then it goes through all the Discover ones and it runs through that. Okay? And what it comes up with is right here. So it's an interchange table. So we have each individual interchange item with the type, the fee, the per item fee, the number of transactions, the total volume, the average ticket for that individual interchange item. Because here's the thing. Yes, their average ticket was, I think, what did we say? It was $23.50, I think, right? But here's the thing. We found that for this particular business type, if their average ticket is whatever, 22, 23, they're going to have some, let's see here. Let me find one that's really high. Here we go. They're going to have a little bit of these business level one, like one transaction a month, and that's going to have an average ticket of $112 because when a business goes to a pizza shop, they don't buy one pizza, they buy 7, right? Same thing down here. Some of these other business ones are $75. On the flip side, they're going to have some interchange items like the CPS small ticket regulated, which is where the highest transaction size is actually $15. It can't be higher than 15. And this is for people that go in and buy an order of breadsticks or a drink or the special $6.99 deal, right? And they're going to have some of those. And so this algorithm is so accurate that not only does it predict interchange, but it actually builds an interchange table using the individual interchange items and figuring out what the average ticket size would be for each type of interchange, not just for the overall merchant. Now that's a change. That's live right now, but that's a change. When I originally did it, I didn't have that. It was just running off the average ticket. It was still very accurate, but now it's even much more accurate because of that addition there. Okay, so you can kind of see the fees for each individual interchange item. As an example, here's EIRF credit. This is actually a downgrade, and I'm going to talk to you about that here in just a minute. Let me see if we have some other questions here. I'm trying to keep answering the questions as we go along. So, can we then generate an app from this info, send it to the processor? Will the processor then accept it? No, Dan, there's no paperwork application from this. There would be no reason for you to really send this to the processor. We are eventually going to start integrating some paperwork like, DocuSign type stuff eventually, but there would really be no reason to do that. You would get, this would be the proposal, and then you would get the application, you'd fill out the pricing that's on the last page, but there's really no reason to send it to the processor doesn't accept or decline a proposal. It's the proposal. Couple other questions. What was the addition? Can you repeat that, please? So the addition here, and again, it's kind of a geeky mathematical addition, I guess you would have to say. But the addition is that now instead of using, like in this case, it was $23.50 was the average ticket. So instead of looking and saying all of these interchange items are going to have an average ticket of $23.50, instead of that, now it actually calculates what the average ticket would be by card type and by interchange type. And so that just allows the fees to be much, much more accurate because it calculates the number of transactions based on that. And so the long version of it, the short version of it is it makes it much more accurate at predicting interchange. Okay, that's not the thing we're talking about mainly today, but it is there. Somebody else asked a question, and now I'm losing my question thing here. Hold on. There we go. American Express is not an interchange with OptBlue. Yes, Steve, I understand that. The table is not here, and again, that's because there's really not a lot that differentiates it. As long as you got the business type correct, American Express we figure out in the presentation stage because we just figure that out for you. Now you can edit it later, but I didn't put anything in here because you know what I'm saying, like there's no variation. Well, here I'll show you. When you look at there, and it is actually kind of like an interchange table now with OptBlue, at least a little bit more like that. Oh, and by the way, Michael, Michael puts out a great point. Michael said that on his phone, some of those columns do not display, and that's exactly right. I'll show you that. And then I'll look at the other thing here. When you go like this, like you're going to look at it on your phone. Whoops, I'm sorry. On your phone, because of the smaller screen size, we eliminate some of the columns. And so you still have the columns where you can see things like the volume and fees, but you can't see, let me move this over a little bit here. But you can't see the average ticket size, etc. And we do that on purpose because if you did, it wouldn't all fit on the screen. And so we want to make sure you have a really good experience. So it's all mobile enabled. It all collapses down, and there's less columns on your phone than there is when it's on the desktop view like that. So good point. Yes, we did make it mobile enabled for that purpose. Okay, good. Let's see. What was the other question here? Oh, American Express. Just real quick. This is kind of a boring thing here, but just really quick. Let's go down here. Okay, here's American Express Opt Blue. So the way that this works now is retail is one, restaurant is another, and services is a third, and then there's bar. But I mean, like, there's really not much variation. Like, you're going to pick one. We know what type it is because you said what it was at the beginning. So unless you pick the wrong business type, and I mean the wrong one by like a mile, instead of it being retail, it was restaurant, which that would be a pretty difficult mistake to make, right? It's kind of foolproof. And then it just matters about the size of the charge, and we know what that is by the average ticket size. So it's really easy for us to figure it out. It's 1.6% and 10 cents if it's less than $75. And so this is an algorithm I built for American Express Opt Blue that's just foolproof. There's really no reason for you to even edit it because it's, you'd really have to go out of your way to get that wrong. Okay, so it creates this interchange table. Now, before today, that's where we left it at. And you could go up here and see that the total interchange would be roughly $316 on this 21,000 in volume, which is like, what, a 1.5% effective rate, something like that. What we have added today is these 6 little categories down here, and I'm going to go through each of them, and this is really the bulk of the training today. I'm going to take the next probably 15 minutes or so and go through this. Obviously, it looks like it's going to take me a little longer than I thought because I love talking about this stuff. So, and you guys keep asking questions. I'll be glad to answer them. Let me just go through each of these and give you the big picture on these, okay? So, you pull this up in front of a merchant. Now, the first thing that's going to catch their attention is going to be this $316.87, and that's exactly what you want, right? You want to catch their attention. They're paying $985 a month, and again, we just guessed, so who knows, but this is a fictitious merchant, right? $316, you say, now, here's first thing I can tell you is that based on other pizza shops like yours, I can tell you that what you should be paying in terms of your pure cost to Visa and MasterCard, to the banks, what Visa and MasterCard regulate that the banks are going to take, and what's called interchange, is $316.87 a month. Now, that's not on your $30,000 because that doesn't include American Express and Penn Debit, but that's on all your Visa, MasterCard, and Discover transactions, including like check card and all of that. And that's $316, and you can kind of see how that would break down for the average merchant in your situation with your average ticket size. Okay, so that's the first thing that's going to stick out to them, and you're going to show them that and say, now, I have a couple of other questions for you, though, and I want to make sure that my assumptions are correct because these assumptions are what we're basing the fact that this $316.87 is here. Now, for those of you that have already been using the IQ tool, the number one request that we've had or concern that we've had is people are like, well, James, you say it's $316, but on the statement it says it's $550. Like, we like that, but is that accurate, right? So the answer to your question is yes, that is 100% accurate with the fact that now that we have keep in mind, I mean, this is not like an algorithm that has to predict some deep, dark secret. There is a big table of different rates, and the cards qualify based on certain criteria. There's not an enormous amount of, we made an algorithm. It statistically, predicts all of this stuff very accurately. So it is correct, but it is correct to the extent that these 6 things right here are also correct. So now I'm showing you the assumptions that we based that number on so that you can run through them with the merchant and adjust them if necessary, okay? So, a couple things that you'll notice. Now again, this is a pizza shop, so you'll notice a couple things. First of all, a large percentage of their transactions, 54%, are regulated debit. Now, regulated debit means it's a check card, okay? So you're using your bank card, not entering your PIN. That's important, not entering your PIN. They're swiping the card, not entering their PIN number, and it is a regulated check card. Now, this is something a lot of salespeople don't know about. So a few years back, we had something called the Durbin Amendment. You could look it up online, Durbin Amendment, and it was put forward by Dick Durbin in the Dodd-Frank Wall Street Reform Act, the Financial Reform Act, and it was a few years back now after the last financial crisis. And what they did was basically they regulated the banks, and they didn't regulate all the banks, though. They said, okay, if you're a bank and you have over $10 billion in assets, okay, then you can only charge right here 0.05% and 22 cents per item. That's the most you can charge. And so, of course, all the banks are charging the most they can charge, and that's what it is. Now, that's about a 40% cut from what they were charging before that was regulated, and so you can see that right here. Now, you can see in this case for a pizza shop, we are predicting that they're going to do a lot of their volume with some kind of regulated check card. Here's small ticket regulated check card. Here's a U.S. regulated check card. Here's another category of it. Let's see here. There's probably a couple more here we could find. Maybe MasterCard. No, I think they're all at the top. Okay. So they're all right here. And you can see that's 11,407 out of the 21,000, which is 54% of that. Okay. Then we see unregulated. You say, well, what's that? I didn't know there was, I thought all check cards were regulated. Nope. About 80% of banking is done within these big mega banks that have over 10 billion in assets. This is like your Chase Bank, banks like that. But there's also a significant, about 20%, that's conducted through unregulated banks, which have less than 10 billion in assets. And for those, there's a completely different interchange table for them. It's a little bit higher. And in this case, we're predicting that they have about 3,200 in unregulated. Now, again, are you really going to ask the merchant if they have, if this looks right to them? No, and that's why I showed you these two first. It's a good conversation piece. Honestly, that's what it is. Just like when your lawyer or your CPA or your doctor or some other professional is talking to you and they're talking over your head a little bit, but they're impressing you with their knowledge, that's what you can do with those two fields. And you can say, well, first of all, Mr. Jones, you can see here that it looks like check cards have a huge impact on your business. And you can also tell them that regulated check cards and unregulated check cards, and talk about that a little bit with the Durbin Amendment. Also, of course, this should also be a key for you to talk about your pricing strategy and say, one of the things I always do when I see a situation like this, Mr. Jones, is, in this case, I think it's Brenda, right? Brenda, what I do in a situation like this is I always make sure that I give you the lowest possible price for your check card transactions, right? Well, why? Because that's where most of the transactions are. So you're going to have that conversation with them, okay? The next one that you see here is the business cards, okay? 5.8% of their business is done using business cards, okay? Now you say, well, what does that mean? That means that a business is actually coming in and buying pizza or whatever with a corporate card, okay? Now there's a couple reasons that that's important. First of all, understand that corporate cards have a massively higher average ticket size and a massively higher interchange cost, okay? They just do. Corporate cards have a huge thing, and let me show you what I mean by that. Let's go back up here to Visa, and let's look at the difference real quick. So, let's see here, hold on. Good, okay, let's make sure we're connected. Okay, so if you look over here and you see like a traditional classic rewards or classic retail card, 1.51% and 10 cents. Well, let's look at a commercial CP purchasing card, 2.5% and 10 cents. Okay? Even a business retail. Here's a business retail card. So here's a business using their card in a retail store. It's 2.2% instead of 1.51%. Okay? So you say, well, why does that matter? Because here's the thing. Some of you have contacted me and you're like, James, I don't know what to, I'm not sure about this tool because it says 316, but in actuality, the statement shows $500 in interchange. Well, there's a couple reasons that could be happening. Number one, most likely the interchange on the statement is wrong and they simply are marking up interchange, which a lot of processors do. But it would definitely be worth asking the merchant and saying, now, Mr. Jones, we're calculating this with the assumption that you do about 5 or 6% of your business with other businesses. In other words, how much of your business would you say is local businesses that call you, and not like people from the business, but an actual business using their business corporate card to come in and purchase something. And again, we're not talking about American Express either. That's important too. A lot of businesses come in and use their American Express. But if you ask them this and say, like, what percentage of your businesses, are business people coming in? And again, you say, well, James, how are they going to know the answer to that? They're probably not. So guess what they're going to do? What would you do? Here's this person who's obviously smart, knows what they're talking about, showing you a detailed analysis of interchange, and you don't know the answer to one of these questions. What would you do? You would go get your statement. That's what you would do. And that's exactly what you want them to do. So they're going to go get their statement and they're going to bring it to you, okay? And then you can look on there and you can see these interchange items. It's not hard to recognize them at all. If you scroll down here, I'll show you where they are. Down here, here's business level 1. Here is business level 4. Here is a purchasing card. That one might be a little harder to recognize, but it's a purchasing card. Here's business, business, corporate, commercial, business, commercial, business, 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 commercial, commercial, business. And in fact, when you're looking at a statement, it's going to be even much simpler than that because they're not going to have nearly as many categories. I have mine split up so that it's statistically accurate, but in point of fact, a merchant like this is going to have an interchange table with maybe 4 or 5 business categories, and you can see how much volume they do, and you can adjust that by clicking on the button there, okay? So you might adjust it. So you say, well, it's 316, but actually the statement shows 550. Okay, well, if they tell you that they do 20% of their business with other businesses in the local area and they have a strong program with them, well, then obviously that's something you need to change. You click on it, you change it, and I'll show you that in just a second. Okay, over here, we have 3 of them that are also very, very important. So over here, this is kind of like the card types. Over here, we have the way that they're running the card. And so you can adjust your pitch to talk about that. So this box over here is the types of cards that they're running. You're showing them how big of an impact their regulated cards have and how big of an impact their business cards are going to have. I'm also going to add one additional category over here next week for rewards cards. So you can also see how big of an impact that's having as well, which is pretty cool. Over here, though, we're going to talk about how they process cards. Okay? Now, one of the 2 main reasons why the interchange is going to be potentially, our interchange would be maybe a little lower than what theirs is or off a little bit, would be if, number 1, they have a lot of downgrades. You say, James, what's a downgrade? A downgrade means that they ran the transaction in the wrong way or didn't provide the right data with the transaction. Let me give you a couple of examples, okay? A business that is keying in transactions over the phone, like this quick service restaurant here, and they're not verifying the address. So they're not keying in the zip code to verify the address. Okay? So it's called AVS, Address Verification Services. If they're not doing that, it gets downgraded so that instead of them paying, I will show you here. Instead of them paying, where did it go? The retail key entered rate of 1.8% and 10 cents, they instead end up paying the EIRF downgrade down here of 2.3% and 10 cents. Okay? And there's actually a separate category specifically for retail key entered without that information, but it's a downgrade. It's an EIRF downgrade. Okay? So we've already calculated that for you. And that's right here in the keyed. And so, or in the downgrade. So we would say, it looks like 9.3%. Again, are they going to know the answer to this? No. But you got to ask them that question and say, are you keying in transactions? Yes. Okay. Do you use the zip code when you key them in? No. Okay. What percentage of your transactions are you keying in over the phone? And, if they say, well, we're keying in 30% of our transactions and we're not entering any of the information there, well, that 316 is going to go up significantly. And let me actually show you that. When you click on downgrades here, right now at 9.3%, I'm going to click on downgrades, and we can see 9.26% is what our platform is predicting here. And by the way, there's going to be a little video down here underneath this so you can show the merchant about downgrades. I'm going to make a video for each of these 6 things and put it there so you can show the merchant. It's being pretty cool. But let's take it up to, I don't know, 25%, all right, and adjust it. Well, and by the way, this is going to take a minute because, again, it's running on my local computer, and this is a very, very complicated algorithm because it has to redo the entire interchange table. And what it's doing is it's taking volume and adding volume to the downgrades, and it is taking volume away from everything else. And what you can see here, it took it from about 316 to 358. So we just added $40 to the interchange because of the way that they're keying in their transactions. Okay? So that's our downgrade. I'm going to reset this here. Hold on one second. Okay. Let me see what questions we got here. Michael, these changes can absolutely be done on the phone. And just to be clear with everybody, everything I'm doing right now can be done on your smartphone. Our entire app was designed specifically for you to use in standing in front of the merchant with your phone or your tablet. Okay? Definitely. So let's see. I'm sorry, here got a couple other questions. Okay. Sorry, there we go. Okay. Where do you account for dues, etc.? So Bradley, the dues and assessments, you put those into your program. I'll show you that in a minute. And those are automatically calculated because that's not something that changes. You know what I mean? Like, you don't change that. Again, what I try to do with this thing, honestly here, Bradley, is I'm trying to make this thing as kind of magical and simple as possible. So some of this stuff matters, right? Like you could be way off on the, I could be way off on the key transactions. You might be dealing with a small ticket restaurant that does 30% of their transactions, key entered versus swiped, right? So you need to be able to edit that. But the dues and assessments, you don't need to be able to edit that. You're going to set that in the program, which I'll show you in a minute, and then we just calculate that for you when you go to do the presentation. So this is just pure interchange from the banks, because Visa, MasterCard, again, they don't do any interchange. So yes, Joanne, it goes from 30,000 to 21,000 because this is just Visa, MasterCard, and Discover. Okay, so we had 6,000 in American Express, and we had 3,000 in PIN debit. So 30,000 minus 6,000 minus 3,000 is 21,000 in Visa, MasterCard, and Discover. And then you're going to have this, you'll see later on when the American Express is added back in. Keep asking questions. I'll keep answering them. It's fine. I've got more to cover, but I'll go through it in a minute. It's fine. If you guys don't mind sticking around for a little bit here. Let's see here. And by the way, just to clarify too, it was already at 21,000 before I did that last change there. Let's see here. Sorry, I'm trying to answer the rest of these here. Explain regulated. So again, Jim, regulated just simply means it's regulated check cards. I think I covered that a minute ago. Hopefully we were good on that one. But regulated check card means it's a check card that was issued from an issuing bank that has over $10 billion in assets, which means that the federal government has regulated the interchange they can charge. And so that's the interchange that's charged. Let's see. Can you do this with a merchant over the phone from the office or home, Scott? Absolutely. The other big, I really wanted to go after two target markets with this tool. The first one was definitely the sales rep in the field that's using it on their phone because I think it's amazing for that. But the second one is when you're on the phone, because if you've done this on the phone, Scott, you know that the hardest thing is getting the statement, right? So stop asking for the statement. Just ask them these questions and talk to them, and you can email them a proposal as soon as you're done, and you can set them up. So this cuts that whole thing out of the process. It's really cool. I have a lot of people actually using it for that purpose now. The way you change it on the phone, Michael, is you just click the button. Now again, Michael, just clarify, this is not live right now. I'm sorry. I think that's where the confusion is. So Monday night when we do our next we push up to the live version on the website, this is going to be there. This is a training to get you ready for that change. It's going to be coming Monday night. Okay, so this is not there right now on your desktop or on your phone. Sorry about that. Yeah, we still have to do all the testing. I always do this as like a beta to make sure everybody sees what it is. I get feedback from people. We have a few users trying it out, and then we make changes, and then we push it up once it's fully tested. Some of us have an older version. Oh yeah, and Richard, so I think I just answered that question. So yes, everybody is on this, it's all gonna update Monday night, probably like midnight, 1 in the morning, you know how that stuff goes. Do we need to sell hardware with this program? No, not at all, Anthony. This is not a program like a specific credit card processor. If you sell hardware, you can use this program. If you don't sell hardware, you can use this program. This is just a sales tool, no matter who you're selling for, that you can use this to have a conversation with the merchant and give them an instant quote. Okay? Okay, good. All right, let me keep moving forward and I'll answer. Keep asking questions. I'll answer more in a little bit. So let me show you the one other one, key entered in Modo, okay? So again, this is where you're like, well, James, it says 316. I reset it back to the original. It's 316, but this merchant, they're doing, it says 400. Okay, well, are they keying in a lot of their transactions? Well, yeah, they're keying in 50%. Well, that matters, right? That's a big deal. So we're going to click on this, and we're going to change 5.38 to 50, and we're going to adjust it. Take a little bit here again, and what it's going to do is it's going to take the keyed transactions, it's going to add to that, okay, and it's going to adjust that 316 up to 382. So now we're, $382. So you kind of get the idea that you can make these changes and it's going to make these adjustments in here. Some of these things, again, we still have to test out, and we're going to change a few other things with this, change some of the volume stuff a little bit. But you kind of get the idea. E-commerce, same thing. Maybe they're like, well, we have a website and we do 20% of our business online. Well, that's going to dramatically change the interchange, okay? So you can click on these things. So it's a great sales tool because without you getting the statement, you can basically do a much better presentation than you could ever do with what the analysis department gives you, okay? So now let's go ahead and click on compare programs. Now I have a bunch of programs loaded into mine because I'm always helping reps and always adding programs. So, I'm just going to give you a little demo here. So for those of you that are new to this, let me just show you something. So here we have our qualified programs. Now, a lot of you had questions about where did American Express go? Where did Pendebit go? Where did dues and assessments? What about the transaction fee, the basis points of markup, the monthly fee, blah, 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 right? Now all of that comes into play. Now that we have the interchange correctly, now and only now we hit compare programs, and it's now going to pull up all the programs. So somebody, I think a second ago, asked about, do we need to sell hardware or something along those lines? And the answer is no, you don't have to, you can sell whatever you want. But what you do is you go in here to your profile, click on Program Wizard, and I have all of these different programs in here that have been loaded up, okay? You can load up any program you wanted by clicking on the Program Wizard, adding, my processor, okay, and then you can create a program. And this is where you set these things. So we're going to do this testing program here. And this is where you set things like, well, this program, they only qualify if they have a minimum volume of 3,000 and a maximum volume of 99.99. So that means it's only going to show up when the Visa MasterCard volume is between 3,000 and 9,999. The upfront bonus, the residual split, the per item fee, the per item cost on your Schedule A, the basis points of markup, the bin sponsorship, and all this. And so these are all your minimum pricing guidelines. Has your monthly fees. Here's your dues and assessments. Somebody asked about that earlier. Here's where you can change that to match, because again, this is the true cost, but a lot of the processing companies you guys sell for mark these things up. And click on next. You have the minimum batch fees, all of this here. American Express, here's the OptBlue pricing and things like that. And then you just save it. And now that program exists in right here, a testing program right here, okay? And so now when we go back here, click on this, and I go back to Brenda, click on the statement. Now this one is actually not going to show up, by the way. Whoops, sorry there. This one's not going to show up, by the way, because we've already done this statement, and so it's not going to add some new comparison program in here. But here's all the programs we had added in. And now what you can do is, again, it's going to pull these all in at the minimum pricing guidelines. And I did it that way on purpose because I think that's what most reps want. So you don't show this to the merchant, okay? This is where, you help them, talk them through the interchange. Then you turn your phone back around and say, okay, now, hold on 1 second. Let me kind of search programs and see what I have. Give me 1 second, And then you go to this screen and you're the one looking at this screen. Again, some of these columns are not going to be here. If you're on your phone, it does look a little bit different here. It's kind of like a key, where it has, the letters here for the key instead of the other way. But you can do everything on your phone. One of the things you might do is hit decrease savings. So you might look at this and say, well, good night. We're saving them $346 a month. Or let's say I want to do the IPS standard program in here. And I'm like, I'm saving them $200 a month and I'm getting 107 in residual. Let's even that out a little bit because I don't think I need to save them $200 a month. They're probably going to go with $100 a month. So the decrease savings, this is what I call the wide brush. This is where you can do a big stroke of a brush here of changing the overall picture in a big way. You can change the individual pricing here on the next step, but here you can just click decrease savings. What it's going to do is it's going to take the savings down 20% and it's going to take the residuals up 20%. So you can see our savings went from $199 down to $155. then, which is a 20% drop, and then our residuals went from like 109 to 129 or something like that. So, you know, it just, and the way it did that is it adjusted the basis points from 40 and 8 to 50 and 10. Then you can hit decrease savings again and say, okay, well, now we're at 60 and 12. I think that's pretty good. I'm saving them $112 a month. So now you click on present. And again, I'm going to answer everybody's questions in a minute. I just want to get through this in case some of you need to jump off here. And so once I click present, now I come here, and we've added some things here as well. One of the things we added is the detail view right here, and the detail view actually goes into Amex fees, Amex Opt Blue fees, VMD interchange, so it shows that, you know, that information there, the VMD fees, and so it's got all this like kind of data in here. And then you can also click on from the summary here or the detail, you can click on the pricing wizard. And so the pricing wizard is where you can really get this to be the way you really want it. So you might say, well, 60 basis points, I think I'm actually going to go back down to 50, but I'm going to do a, you know, 15-cent transaction fee. And then your American Express, you leave that at 40 or whatever. You can adjust the individual fees and save it. And then that's going to adjust the total fees. And then down here you have your monthly savings. You have it monthly, annual, and 3-year savings. Okay. All right, so you can kind of see that there. And that's right. If you remember, originally we set it at $985 or something like that, and $980 it was. And so we have savings of $100 here because $880 in fees. The other thing you can do is you can click PDF. Now this is the only thing I didn't get done really the way I wanted. We did add the PDF button here, and so all you have to do is click on Save, and then you can just save that to a PDF on your desktop, and then you could email it to the merchant. If you're on your phone or tablet, just do a screenshot, and you can find apps that'll convert a picture to a PDF for your phone, and you can do it that way and email it out to them that way. Or you could even text them the screenshots. There's a couple different ways you can do this. We are going to be making the proposal engine as like the only major feature I don't have done yet. We're going to be getting that done very soon. Probably by the end of next week, I'll roll that out as well. And that's going to just make a really beautiful, PDF proposal that's going to pull information in about the program and the processor, and also will let you update, like when you go to your profile. We added these fields. Many of you that have been with it for a while, you don't have this stuff yet, but you know, we added these fields like your first name, your last name, your phone number, and then you can leave your password blank if you're going to leave it the same, which is fine. But you can add that contact information and update it. And what that's going to do is, current password. I forgot to put my current password in. There we go. So what this is going to do is, now that you have that saved, once we have the proposal engine done, what it's going to do is the proposal engine is going to pull that in, and it's even going to let you upload a headshot. And so at the top of your proposal, it's going to be a beautiful proposal. At the top, it's going to have your headshot with your name, your phone number, and your email address. And it's also going to pull information in from the processor and other things like that. So that's kind of the last major thing that we want to get done. All right, that is all I have for you guys. So I'm going to answer a bunch of questions. Before I do that, if you have not signed up for a 30-day free trial, I don't know what you're waiting for at this point. Honestly, if you cannot make an extra $99 a month using this program, you're not out in the field, because this is an incredible tool that is incredibly accurate now with the new algorithm. With this new stuff I rolled out coming on Monday night, I mean, by Tuesday morning, you're going to have by far and away the most accurate tool in the industry. And I think it's the ultimate sales tool for our industry as well, because it allows you to have conversations without having to ask for the statement. And and by the way, I think I kind of mentioned this, but I didn't show you. What I'm going to do is right here, there's going to be a little link next to each one of these on your phone or your desktop where you can click a little play button, and it's going to pull up like a 30-second video about downgrades, about Keyed and Modo, about e-commerce, about regulated debit, unregulated, and business cards. So that'll be a help to you, but it'll also be a big help to the merchant, right? You can just click on that and show them, and they're like, well, what is all this stuff? Well, let me show you. Let me click on this video. And it's going to be me with my white screen, obviously not using my name or anything like that, on a separate channel, and hosted on Vimeo and all that. It's going to be not hosted on YouTube, but just a white label, white screen video of me popping up real quick and saying, let me tell you about what downgrades are, how I do it. And so I'm going to do like 6 videos, one for each of those. And so we're going to be starting to you'll see next week a lot more videos coming out about how to use the tool, but also mainly videos coming out about how to sell with the tool. That's kind of my big focus now moving forward. All right, let me answer questions here. Okay, 1 second. Let me find my spot again here. All right, is this just as effective for comparing to a subscription type business model or creating a subscription type model? Yeah, Reggie, if you do that, all you would do is when you create the program, it has 0 basis points of markup with 0 bin sponsorship, but the monthly fee is like $99, you know? So you'll see when you go through the programs, it's pretty simple, but I can help you with that. If you have any questions, just let us know. Let's see here, sorry. Keeps going down there, okay. Yes, it'll work on an iPad. It'll work on any device. How do I add a program? I think I showed you that. Hopefully you saw that one, Bradley. Let me know. Post that again if you didn't see it. It's in the profile, and you click on the program wizard. Now, let me just say again, guys and gals, I mean, one of the hardest things about this tool is adding the program because you have to understand your Schedule A. Now, I think that's a big opportunity because many of you simply don't understand your Schedule A, and that's a really big problem. So use this as an opportunity, number one, to make sure you know what you're actually getting paid and how you're getting it paid. Or you can even just email the general queue, which is support@instantquotetool.com, or you can even click on support right up here at the top. Just type a message out, whatever, and we're now monitoring that every day, all day long. We will be glad to jump on the phone with you. We will be glad to log in through our administrative panel and create the program for you. Like, we can do whatever you need, okay? We're here to help, absolutely, because I realize if you can get the programs in there, you're never going to cancel it. You're going to love it, but you got to get your programs in there, otherwise it's not really going to be very useful for you. How can we use the Instant Quote tool for merchants that are using a Clover POS? Clover has additional fees, TransArmor fees, etc., etc. So you'll see this. I'd be happy to help you set this up, Rate. I mean, first of all, I'm going to do, or that's not your name, Rate Comment? I don't think that's your name. Anyway, sorry about that. I just realized you had your business name in there, I think. But at any rate, yeah, I can help you set up a Clover POS. I mean, really, the only thing you'd have to change is you'd have to make the monthly fee a little higher. But we are working on that. That's one of the other things we're going to add in is we're going to add a, we're calling it the, I forgot the name of it now, Hardware Wizard. The Hardware Wizard. So the Hardware Wizard goes through and does all that. We don't have it in there yet, but we're working on that as well. And that's going to allow you to add like all these different ones because I want to have a lot of that preloaded in there. Because the other thing I really want too is I really want to have marketing materials that pull into the proposal. So if you add like a Clover POS to the solution, it's going to have that in the proposal as well. Okay. Is the savings only based on the interchange, Alex? Absolutely not. So Alex, this is a full feature, just like you get a statement analysis done at a processor right now, and they send you back and say, we can save the merchant $50 a month, right? We do exactly the same thing. The only difference is we do it a lot better, and we look at interchange. So we're going to save them that $50, but what if their downgrades are currently 25%, and all they need to do is key in the zip code to get it down to 5%, right? That's an opportunity to save them another 40, 50, 60 bucks a month. We're going to show you that opportunity as well as the traditional savings that you'd be able to offer them with the statement analysis tool. Ask me another question, Alex, if that didn't make sense, because I'm not sure how clear that was now that I'm playing that back over in my head. So you can do any, that's the key thing to making this really user-friendly for you is going to be making the program, setting them up the right way. If you're selling for 3 processors, you should probably have 12 or 15 programs in the system because you're going to make one, you're going to clone it, and you're going to make changes because, if they do over 10,000 in volume, you might get an extra $100, or if they don't get a free terminal, you get this. And so each of those variations, you can make a different program, and that way you can really see the details when you go to compare the programs. And again, if you're using the system, the tool, and you're like, James, I just haven't really been able to use it much, I don't get it, you please email support@instantquotetool.com. Let us do a demo for you and walk you through it, and we will help you set up your programs. We'll show you how to do this. It's not difficult once you do it a couple times, but it can be a little overwhelming the very first time you try to do it. Oh, here's a really good question. Frank says, are all the SIC codes included in this update on Monday? So Frank, yes and no, okay? Let me explain what I mean by that. First of all, no, they're not in terms of picking somebody from the list here, okay? This list is not going to change, okay? But let's say you have a place that sells clothes online, right? That's easy. All you do is you go here and select retail clothing right here. And let's just save and quote real quick. Let's say they do 10,000 in volume, and this is going to create it. By the way, those of you that noticed, I just put in the total volume. I didn't put any other fields in there, and which it still works fine. You would just go right here and click on e-commerce. And when you click on e-commerce, you're going to change the percentage to 100% from 0%. That's all you have to do. Okay? So yes, it will work for any SIC code, but we're not changing the list of SIC codes. It's just that we now have these functionalities here that allow you to do different types. You know, for instance, I'll give you another really good example of one that a lot of people have gotten hung up with, okay? Let's click on this again. Let's go to a service construction company, okay? So let's say you have somebody that is a plumber, okay? So you pick this one. We put in, you know, $20,000 in volume and create it. And hold on here. Now we see that their business cards are 35%. So they do a lot of business with other businesses, right? But you look at that and say, well, no, this plumber only works with other businesses. Like that's all they do. Okay, click on business cards and change it to 100%. So yes, it'll work with any business type now because you can change these assumptions to be what you need. I will work on adding some other like one e-commerce one and, you know, some of that stuff. But right now we don't have that in there. Again, I'll keep answering questions as long as you're asking them here, as long as you're on. So the customer database built into this tool. Robin, maybe give me a little more clarity on that question. I'm not sure I understand it. The CRM is built into this. Yes, you can manage your customers there, but it's not like, this isn't for one specific processor. So it's not like I have volume detail or something like ongoing customer service, because this is not a processing company. It's just a pure technology tool that works with a lot of different processing companies. How many processors do you have in your tool, Joanne? As many. There's none, and there's as many as you want. It's user generated. So you go on there and create your profile, and whatever processor you're selling for, we will help you set up those programs for that specific processor. And so, like, you know, you have a Schedule A or a compensation schedule from your current company. You could just email that to us, and we'll put it in there for you, or we can walk you through doing it yourself. But that's how it works. We just create those programs for you. Let's say I have a quote from a processor saying savings, say 100, but your tool shows 200 savings with the same processor. So Michael, what that would indicate is that one of two things has happened. Now this is important. If you're still on, please hang on for 1 second and let me answer this question, then you can jump off if you need to. So Michael says, okay, I've got a statement, and the statement analysis department at the processor shows they're going to save $100, but the tool shows we're going to save them $200, okay? So Michael, here's the important thing to understand. Number one, the statement analysis departments at most of these companies have no idea what they're doing, okay? I have said that to them directly, face to face, and they have said, you're right, we don't, okay? And if you ever doubt that, just send a statement to 3 different companies, 4 different companies, 5 different companies, and see what you get back. They're all going to be different. They're all going to be wrong. They don't know what they're doing with Interchange. It just throws them for a loop, okay? So, number one, I don't care what they said about the savings because I don't trust it at all. 0, okay? When I get 5 proposals back from the 5 biggest companies in the industry and all 5 of them are totally different, I don't trust any of them. Like, they don't know how to do it, okay? Secondly, though, if the key thing I would look at is, again, if the savings is off like that, the only reason is because of the interchange, okay? So what I would actually look at is on the statement, look at their interchange, all right? If the statement is off by like $100 where they're showing $100 higher interchange, that's a huge opportunity, Michael. That's where you focus on making the sale, because you got to tell them and say, Mr. Jones, here's the thing. I'm showing your interchange should be $362, but you're showing that your interchange is actually $465. That means you're paying on average $100 more per month in interchange to the banks and interchange fees than all of your competitors, because this was pulled from a database of existing merchants just like you. So let's see if we can figure out why that's happening, okay? Number one, do you key in a lot of your sales? How many are keyed in versus swiped, okay? All right, they say, well, I do this many keyed in, okay? Adjust that, right? Okay, do you do any e-commerce? Do you have a website where you accept payments? No, okay? Now let's talk about when you key in these transactions, do you put the zip code in there to verify it? No, I don't. Okay, those are downgrades, so we're going to adjust the downgrades, okay? So what that's going to tell them is that's going to now tell you, wow, look at that. That's why it's so high. Let me help you get those downgrades down so that we can save you that extra $100. So I hope that helped everybody a little bit there. Hey, Brandon, that's great, man. Looking forward to working with you again. Shoot me an email sometime. Will you be offering a version of the instant quote tool for business owners so they can find a process themselves? No, I will not be doing that. I will be making things available where you can put this instant quote tool on your own website. So I'm going to have something where you can make a mirrored website 2017. You're going to be able to have a mirrored website that has this tool right on the website, so you can send somebody there and they can do their own quote. But I protect my relationship with the independent reps. So I'm not going to go around the independent rep and make something that merchants would come and sign up, because I don't do that. I don't sell credit card processing. I train salespeople on how to sell credit card processing, and I provide them with training and technology tools to help them be more successful. Now, I do have a local business, and I sell it, and I've been using the tool and things like that. But as far as nationally, I have no plans whatsoever to go directly to the merchant, because that would be kind of that's not our mission. Our mission is enabling committed independent sales partners for success. So our mission is you, not the merchant. Let's see. Can we set up a program for level 2 and level 3? You know what, Reggie? It is actually already in there to a point, but I know what you're asking for, and the answer to your question is no. So level 2 and level 3 rates are going to be in here if that business type has those, but I know what you're asking, and what I would need to do to accomplish that, Reggie, is I would need to add a third kind of section down here for that, where you could say this percentage of their volume is level 2 or level 3. For those of you who don't know what that is, it means they're adding additional data when they do work with other businesses to lower their interchange rate. Very common among government agencies, business to business, that kind of stuff. And so yes, we can do that, but we do not have it yet. Again, Joanne asked the question, I think everybody keeps asking, what processor are you guys? We're not. We're not a processor, okay? If you're asking, do I have to sell for you in order to use this tool? No. You can sell for anybody in the industry, and you can use this tool, and we will help you add, whoever you're selling for, we'll help you add their tools or their programs and pricing and compensation to your profile so that you can do a bid with them in mind. Hopefully that answers your question. Any other questions? That was the last one on here. Anybody else have a question? Here we go. The merchant statement currently shows that they have 8 basis points but got charged ridiculously high on the interchange fees. How can I help the merchant on their savings without raising the basis points and also making money at the same time? Well, that's, you know, Alex, that's the beauty of this tool, is because those two things are interchangeable. Merchants don't care about their basis points of markup at all. What they care about is their savings. So if you can show them, hey, look, here's how you can get, lower your downgrades. And again, I'm going to have videos in here for this, like detailed stuff. And you can play it for them and say, watch this. And they're like, well, how are you going to save me that much money? Here's how. Click right here. And they're going to watch a video and see this is how you're going to get the downgrade. So I'm trying to make this a really good sales tool so that when you get in that situation, I know exactly what you're talking about. The pricing's already low. The margins are really low. How do you make any money? Raise the pricing. Okay? If you can save them money on interchange by helping them reduce their downgrades, by getting them a gateway to put the information in, or educating them on, what they should be running or whatever, then yeah, you can save them a ton of money. Or a lot of times what's funny to me is, not funny, it's kind of sad, but a lot of times this, oh my goodness, their pricing is so low and they're, how are you going to save any money? Well, yeah, that's because their current processor is marking their interchange up by 20%. You don't know that because they just hit it on the statement. And the processors, they don't even catch that when they're doing the analysis, but that's what's happening. So our tool is going to identify that. And I think the biggest challenge and hurdle we've had with our tool, that I wish I could get salespeople to understand it, because, they're like, James, your tool says I'm going to save the merchant $100. What should I do? And I'm like, what do you mean what should you do? Sell it. But the problem is they don't trust the tool. And so they feel like it's not legitimate, and then they don't pitch the savings. And I'm like, oh, really? You're not going to trust my algorithm that's running like 4,000 calculations in 4 seconds versus a massive database of 7,400 records? Trust my database. Don't trust the other thing there. So anyway, by the way, yes, our information is also very, very secure as well. This database, many of you know Salesforce. You've heard of Salesforce. Salesforce owns a company called Heroku, and Heroku is the company that we've outsourced our database management to. So we developed all the technology ourselves, and we built the database, but the hosting of it is with Heroku, and that way it's absolutely secure with Heroku. So there's another good one. Good question. My audio signal dropped. Can you repeat about the level 2 and level 3? Yeah, Reggie. So to answer your question, currently the answer to your question is no, because that's not really something you can do in the program. It's something that I would need to do with Interchange, because level 2 and level 3 is a different Interchange category. Now, sometimes it'll show up in here, but you can't adjust it right now. It would be a pretty easy fix for me, to be honest. I haven't had anybody ask me about it yet, Reggie, so email me, james@CCSalesPro.com. That's something I could definitely add in for you, and what it would look like is just like how these boxes here allow you to edit the percentage that is business cards or e-commerce or whatever. There would be two there that allowed you to edit the percentage that was level 2 and level 3. And that's how it would run it. And so it wouldn't be that difficult for me to do, but just email me, and if you're interested in something like that, I can work that out for you as well. That would be a really good feature to add, I think. Well, the instant quotes will offer a solution. So if we enter a credit card number into the system, it will tell us which type of credit card it is and how much this card charges the merchant when swiped. Wow. Man, that's a great idea. But no, I don't have that yet. Wow, yeah, no, you know what? No, I wouldn't be able to do that, man. I wish I could, but I couldn't do that. He's asking, is there a solution where you could key in your card and see what the interchange would be on that card? The reason I can't do that is because that data is not available to me. Our system, that data flows through Visa and MasterCard directly. Like when you put a card number in, I would know what type of card, like if it was a Visa or MasterCard, but I wouldn't know if it was a rewards card or a corporate card. There's no way for me to know that, my program to know that, because that data flows through Visa directly. So that stinks. That's a really good idea. Can you have 2 different emails on this tool? Oh, you mean the contact. Ironically, well, actually, I guess you could. Technically, you could just separate them with a comma in the email field, but right now, no. And let me answer that with a broader answer, Joanne, which is, you know, right now, the CRM has not been a main priority of ours. Let me just show you what I mean. When you go into CRM right now, it serves its purpose very well, which is you can click the little plus sign, you pick the business type, you add the business name, the contact name, their phone number, their email, the source type, and the stage, and then you save it. And then once you save it, you can then go in here and you can add notes, you can add next actions, and you can add statements. So it does all the core things you need it to do, but 2017, I'm going to be rolling out some amazing, amazing stuff. And I'm really excited about it. Honestly, we just haven't had time we're mainly trying to develop a tool specific for merchant services. So the CRM hasn't gotten a lot of attention, but we're going to be changing all that. There's like a different tool that I'm going to be using that I'm going to integrate with. It's going to do a lot of social media integration and really cool stuff in 2017. So sign up. I'm not going to be raising the prices. I can tell you that right now. Prices are not going up. All my big focus right now is just on making the user experience really, really good. And so I'm going to keep doing that, and I'm going to keep adding really cool stuff, and I'm not going to charge anything extra for it. It's just going to be there. For instance, I'm going to add learning management system to this. We already have it almost done, and I'm going to put a whole bunch of new training courses about some of the stuff I'm talking about on this training in there for free. Well, not free, but you know, if you're a subscriber, you get it with no extra cost. So, let's see here. Oh, Joanne, you were asking about your email and your profile. Yes, you have to set up one email address for that. You have to pick your email address that you want to have in there. Yes. Sorry, I think I misunderstood that one. Is it true that you can go on fltreasury.org to show our merchant the actual chart of Visa and MasterCard fees? Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of places you can go to show them the actual fees, definitely. I think you might be asking for that specific merchant. I'm not aware of a tool that does that. But as far as the interchange table, like what I showed you today, just email me and I'll send you a copy. But yeah, you can get it. There's a lot of places you can get that. Let's see. James, this looks good. I think many of us still need much more extensive training on it, though. Yeah, Wade, you know, it might be true. And I think a lot, especially those of you that are maybe a little newer to the industry as well, the key thing I want to make sure I drive home is that all the stuff I showed you today, even if you don't use any of that, let me just show you what I mean real quick. For those of you that are still on here, let me take 2 more minutes and just show you something. Let's say that I just described all that and you're like, oh my gosh, what the heck was all that? I have no idea. I could never use this tool. Way too complicated, right? If that's how you feel about it, this is what you would do. You talk to the merchant, you hit plus. You say, okay, what type of business is this? It's auto sales, okay? You put the information in, save and quote. Mr. Jones, how much credit card processing volume do you do a month? I did about $18,000 last month. Okay. Do you know how much you paid in total fees? Yeah, we spent about $650. Okay. Click create. Don't worry about any of this stuff I just talked about. Hit compare. Decrease the savings a little bit to increase your residuals, because that's pretty straightforward, right? Pick the program you want and hit present. And then say, well, Mr. Jones, I can save you $123 a month. That's what you do. If you don't understand anything I said today, that's what you do. And again, just doing that is going to be much more accurate than statement analysis at most of these companies. They're all making a guess. At least my guess is statistically accurate based on the business type, the average ticket, the interchange types, and everything else, right? So just do that. You know, if you don't understand all the stuff I talked about, just do that. Then separate from that is the instant quote tool, which is how you're going to get them to say yes. But once they say yes, yeah, you'd have to fill out the application. You'd have to get some information from the merchant, and that's all part of the application process with the processing company. Hey, James, my pleasure. Glad to. Great name, by the way. Great first name there. No. Let's see. I think that's it. I don't see any others. Any other questions? Last chance. Now, again, if you have any other questions I didn't answer on here, all you have to do is email support@instantquotetool.com. Support@instantquotetool.com. Or again, better yet, I'll show you what it looks like here. For those of you that are still on, just go to, whoops, let's sign out here. Let me sign out here. This is what it looks like when you go to the website. Click Start Your 30-Day Free Trial. Of course, you're going to pick the individual sales professional, not the team. You click on that, put in your information here, and click Next. So, you know, testing, test 1, 2, 3 @com. And I'll make a little password. Whoops. Okay. And that's going to take you to the payment page. Click on Start Your Trial. And we have a secure connection here with a company called Stripe. And you just put your information in there and start your trial. And you don't get charged anything for 30 days. You can also go to your, right here, your profile. And you can cancel your account at any time. Okay. Other questions? Let's see here. Here we go. Michael says, let's say I have a quote from a processor saying the savings, say $100, but our tool shows 200 savings with the same processor. Let's say I have a quote from a processor saving 100. If my IQ quote and the processor is different, I do an app, what will happen with the actual savings? Well, again, Michael, it's going to come down to, you know, it's funny, Michael. It's one of those things where it's like I would love to tell somebody that in order to be a brain surgeon, there's an app you can download on your phone, and you'll know how to do it tomorrow, and you really don't have to learn to use a scalpel. And if you're, you know, squeamish at the sight of blood, that's okay. But that's not reality, right? Like if you want to be a brain surgeon, you got to learn something about neuroscience. You have to know how to use a scalpel, and if you faint at the sight of blood, that's probably going to be a problem. So to answer your question, Michael, what has to happen is education. In other words, what do you do in that situation? Well, you watch the training videos like I just did today, right? And you look at the tool that I created, and you show the merchant and say, I'm going to save you this much money as long as 5% of your transactions are keyed in over the phone and 10% are business to business, and you only have 10% downgrades. Now, if you get the statement and the savings are not what you promised, then you're going to go back and look at that, and you're going to have to, and I'll help you with that. And by the way, that is something I am making. I'm making another tool where you can key in the actual interchange items from the statement and do like a backwards analysis to see what they need to fix. But, you know, you look at that and say, there's something wrong. Like you're not processing transactions correctly, and we can help you identify that. Yeah, exactly, Michael. And the best thing about it, Michael, is it works. Like, people look at it like, oh, this is so complicated. Yeah, and you're not making any sales. Not you. I'm saying, you know, people are like, you know, oh, this tool, like, I don't think I can figure out this tool. And that's why you can't make any sales in this industry. Like, they go hand in hand. If you would take the time, if everybody, not you specifically, but if everybody would take the time to understand what this tool does, both your Schedule A, right, on the program side to understand how that works, and the interchange and how those assumptions work, then they would actually sell people like I do. Because when I go in, people are like, wow, like this guy, maybe he talked a little bit over my head and a little fast maybe, but nobody talks to me and thinks, that guy doesn't know what he's talking about. No, I know exactly what I'm talking about, and I've got the tool to prove it right here. And you can now leverage my knowledge out in the field by taking the algorithm that I built with the knowledge that I have about interchange, and I've broken it down. I mean, it is so much easier. Guys, when I was out in the field selling all the time, I was doing the same thing on the statement with a pen. Like I'm highlighting all the downgrades in yellow and totaling them up. I mean, oh my goodness, it was a nightmare. This tool does all that for you with an algorithm. It's amazing. Use it to make sales. But yeah, you are going to have to understand about interchange for sure and educate the merchant. That's what they really want. I don't see anything else. Any other questions? I blocked out a lot of time today because I knew you guys might have a bunch of questions. So I'm still here. All right. I don't see anybody else. All right. Hey, everybody. Thank you for taking all of this time. Those of you that are still on, 35 of you are still on here. I can't believe it. But thank you very much. If you have any other questions, james@CCSalesPro.com or support@instantquotetool.com. You are very welcome, Michael and everybody else. Hope you all have a tremendous weekend. These updates, you'll see them Tuesday morning when you go to log in.